So there it is. You can see the roller itself. It's kind of set up. The isometric has the vertical and horizontal axis lines. So for the minor, the shorter one, and the major one, which is the longer of the two. And as you take this and rotate this at a 30-degree angle, you can see that it rotates the side. This elliptical shape has hash marks that go at 30-degree angles. So depending on which one I decide to choose from, I'm going to go in this direction, but I'll make it just a little bit smaller here. And kind of estimating the vertical part on the page. So if I put these little marks just to show just to give you the complete idea, that'll be the circular piece. And I'm just going to extend this down to this part on the other side. But as I cross these over, you can see here's the major and minor axis along with the 30-degree angle if it's perpendicular to the page. So this is a 30-degree angle going back. So when you look at the reference file, it has that, and then you can just drop it down to estimate the overall size of this. So as I take a look at this one, and since I put these marks in there, it makes it a little bit easier, and it's on the same plane. So there's an initial one, and then it offsets itself just to give the thickness of this piece. And there's a little adaptation that you can't really see, but I'll place it in there just to give it a part to illustrate that shade. So the handle's coming right out of here, so I kind of have this handle popping in from there. But since it's going to have a couple circles in there, bends in there. So you're using it somewhat as the engineer would, but also as an artistic guidance to it. So it kind of builds there. As long as it's on the same center line, it all fits in there. So here's where the fitting goes through. So here I'll just sketch it out freehand to show that piece. And I have it curving, so it's going back here. This is where it takes on the same level, at least, of the design. So just as in Illustrator, where you can curve some of these coming up to a tangent line like this. So here's where the curve is. So what I mean by Illustrator, you have those points, but you can use the widget to curve it. So if you think back and forth between the computer as well, excuse me, helps that out. The curvature of this template, I'm going to go back all the way to here. If I use another one, this is at 50 degrees. Not the temperature, but the template angle. I'm just going to line this up here and just make a little bit, do a little dotted line just so you can see that piece. So now these tangents, if it was an isometric, they would have stayed pretty close together. Here I'm just using it as a smaller piece just to get a little perspective in there. And as it comes around, it wraps itself and it becomes a pretty stable piece. If it's brand new, it's going to be smoother. If it's been used, it's going to have the show of wear and tear to that section on it. I'll make that a little bigger. And then as it comes around this piece, again, I can use the template just for the straight edge, just to get it laid out. And here's again, this is going to go over the top of this slight detail. And this going over the top of that. Let's move this up here. And then when I take a look at this actual second part, the handle, again, it has a couple of straight lines here. And the straight edge just there for a little help, makes it a little easier to illustrate. And this is based off of just a rectangular shape, tapered, rounded off at the end, so it's a circular piece. Taper down here if I add any more cross lines just to show the depth of it. And again, I can use a template again if I want to, just to change this direction, and that's going to be 30 degrees that way. So there it is, vertical, And here's the tangent line right to the edge. And technically you get a little bit smaller. Curve that piece. So now I have it as a linear sketch. Now it's just a matter of the shading. I can see that this handle comes off the edge, so I'm going to make that a little bit further away. It's going to come this direction. So again, here's the ellipse this way. It's going to build that direction. So I'm just going to extend it off a little bit here. And just move this out a little bit. So that gives me a little bit more room here. So, I've just extended, just going to pull this out instead of give a little bit more space up front. So that makes it a little bit easier to see, it kind of extends itself, just kind of pulling that out. And then again, taking a look at these cylindrical shapes, this metal piece has the highlights, again, just to find at least half the shadow, half that distance. It's going to have a little accent to it. It curves itself around. This part curving it. So it's trying to give that illusion of metal. Trying to find that outer edge and just softly blend it the other way. Bring this one back. So just by using the straight edge makes it a little bit easier to control that. Build this piece up. And then finding this edge, this part's just going to go dark to light. So that kind of takes that section right to here. And then finding the other edge, just kind of toning it a little bit dark in there. And now I have this part. So there's the thickness, and this kind of has the texture along this whole edge here. So I'm just kind of using the side of the pencil, paper down. And that builds up that section. So that gives you that edge. And this part has the shadow. So you're kind of looking at it mechanically at first, but then coming up with some of the texture. And as you blend it in there, you can actually use an eraser find some of that texture on the edge there, and that'll be a place where you can put in some of the detail. And again, finding this edge. Okay, so see if you can get that edge, find those pieces, whether you use a template or not, just locate that section and you should be good.